We're live.
We're live.
We're live, homie. Chapter uno. Chapter one.
Numero uno.
We're gonna celebrate with a little bit of scotch. This is the scotch that Chris got me.
It's good stuff.
Have you ever had it?
Yeah, this is
So good.
This is a good on the rocks scotch.
I know. I felt like such a degenerate. Nick, here. I felt like such a degenerate. He gave it to me on my birthday. I forget. I think it was a Friday. And then the next Thursday, I had like an entire bottle to myself because I started it and it tastes so
good.
normal on its own.
Cheers.
So cheers. Cheers, Nico.
Cheers, Nick. Cheers. To the beginning.
So
That is good.
we tested this for the first time Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We set everything up and like half of it worked.
Really? Guess
Yeah.
had some growing pains getting everything set up.
Because I didn't realize how obnoxiously technical all that was.
Yeah.
So Nick, thank God, because Nick's so tech savvy. We ordered everything. Everything on Amazon, and then it came in, and then we had the growing pains of like certain cables that we had forgot about because you can only. We were doing it all off of the top of our head.
Right.
And then today we went to Guitar Center.
Yeah.
First time there in fucking 5 years.
Isn't that a throwback?
Dude,
It's so cool in
a
there.
throwback and a realization of how expensive that place was and
Yeah.
where all our money went in high school.
It is fucking expensive.
I was thinking about us going in there almost every single weekend just to get stuff for that weekend to play.
Yep. I think I still have drum heads in my basement. Random shit lying around from you. Used to go get cymbals, all that shit. Like
So
90 bucks
obnoxious.
a cymbal.
So obnoxious in high school.
I know.
It's like,
Fuck did we think
chill
we were?
out. Relax. You don't need to go to Alston this weekend. You're fucking 15.
I know. And now look at you. You're back in Alston.
Back in Alston. Back in my hood.
I know.
So, I guess the main little bit of an explanation of backstory to why we're doing this is, as you know, as everyone that knows me knows, I love talking. I love meeting people. And, I think it's a time in our world that we need to think about living our lives not just in the regular way that everyone else lives it or the way that everyone else teaches you to live it, because I think that's crazy talk, I think all have grown to know, and I think you're the epitome of that. And I kind of explained it a little bit when I first asked you to do it, is you went from being an exec chef or somewhat of a exec chef to being in tech. So I was like, well, that is as fucking bold as it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so different because the amount of people that I'm sure you too, we talk to our age that say, oh man, like I wish I could do that.
Right.
Or, oh, I shouldn't have studied that. I would be doing this. Or even people our parents' age that you hear say, oh, if I could do it all over,
Right.
what would I do? So that's kind of the concept of it. That's also why I started this. Studying what I did, working in the fields that I did, I was like, well, I can still do this. And that's the beautiful thing about our generation. We can do whatever the hell we want. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So do you want to talk a bit about, first of all, like school, why hospitality? Because no one in your family comes from that. And
No.
then all that. Just talk a little bit about that.
I fell into hospitality almost by accident from the start. I was like 14, 15. My neighbor in Gloucester said, like, hey, we have a job down at the beach. Why don't you come down and work a couple of days a week? And then fast forward like 5 years, I was still there and like getting more involved in like the cooking and like overseeing some things, and thought that hospitality might be a good step to take considering what I had done and what I had been successful at. And then, it was a good college experience with hospitality. I liked it. As you've been in hospitality too, it's a lot of fun,
It's intense.
It's one of the few professions where you can like work hard, play hard, and that's to the max with that profession. So, I had a great time in hospitality, but, eventually it was time to get the fuck out.
But slow down. So when you went to UNH, excuse me, you went to UNH. Did you start? This is so embarrassing that I don't know this because you're one of my best friends. But did you go in undeclared, or did you go in with hospitality immediately?
I went in undeclared, originally thinking to pursue the sciences, life sciences. I did that for one semester and was like, this, I find that stuff fascinating, but sitting down and studying it every day, it's just not how my brain works,
Right.
So I went, undeclared liberal arts, and was like, sat down with my dad one day and he was like, well, what are you good at? Like, what have you had success in? And we were like, hospitality, like, this is what I've done. This is what I've known. And that's where I feel comfortable working and can see myself in the future. And enrolled in that, after a year in college, and, found success in that major. And UNH has a great program. They really, I think, more than other colleges or other majors there, really focus on, like, you need to learn how to be professional. You need to learn how to be a member of the professional workforce. Like, weekly we had seminars on resumes and how to write a professional email and how to go up to somebody and, like, introduce yourself with the firm handshake,
right,
which
right.
I know you guys learned from your parents from an early age. Like, that's important stuff. That's like the non-tangible stuff. It's like not what you learn in the textbooks. It's like how to present yourself and be dangerous in the workforce that way. So I think, like, that's what I got most out of college. Like, when I got out of college, I felt like I had an upper hand over people that I was working with in my age, because I was able to think professionally, and, like,
Right.
think about work like that.
Well, because but it's also the open mindset of building a career. It's not just, okay, I'm doing this and this is my plan. And I'm at A and I have to get to Z.
Right.
It's also that kind of, well, I am open to change. And if you're open to that change,
Right.
then it also allows you to be more open-minded in meeting people and being, I feel like when you have that closed, not to be a dick, but when you have the closed mindset of, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
Mom and dad told me this is the best way to handle things.
Right.
I'm going to do it this way. That kind of person is going to go into a situation in a completely different way than the kind of person that's like, I love what I'm doing right now, but that I definitely don't have to be doing this for 40 years.
Right.
Right. And I think that's where people succeed. There's two things in that, and with the kind of people that know when to drop their ego. Because another person in your shoes may have been like, well, the life sciences is definitely the way to go because that's like the prestigious route to go.
Right.
I definitely want to go that way. It just seems like the more culturally accepted role when it comes to an American household.
My dad's a doctor. He was like, that's one of the reasons why I went in that. He's like, well, you would be good in this field. Why don't you try it?
Right.
And I was like, I found out that wasn't the right thing. And,
after you tried it.
Right. And obviously he was like, do what you need to do. But no, I agree. Well, you're the same way though. You went to Switzerland and worked in hospitality. You came back, worked in sales and tech. You've moved up through Swiss Bakers the whole time. You know what I mean? You've been
born baker, baby.
Unafraid of taking risks and, putting yourself out there.
Because
it's good for you.
It's what's exciting though.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, honestly, I'll never forget when I decided that I wanted to go to Switzerland after high school instead of go to college right away. It was exciting as all hell. I'll never forget the trip. My family was in St. Moritz, and we were going to this unbelievably prestigious hotel that for whatever reason I had the opportunity to go work at. And I was standing in front of it and I was like, this is a dream come true. I'm 18 years old. I'm going to do this, blah, blah, blah. Then 3 months before leaving, I'll never forget. I was so scared and I was kicking and screaming, saying, I'm not going anymore. I'm not going. But for some reason, it's that thrill that keeps I don't know, people like me, I think people like you going. It's so scary, but so exhilarating. It's the same thing with this right now. And this is chapter 1. It's definitely raw as all hell. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of mistakes, plenty of things I want to change about it. But waking up this morning, I was like, all right, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
But it's that same feeling. It's the same feeling I had when I said, I'm going to go to Switzerland. It's the same feeling I had when I decided that after I graduated, I'm going to pursue sales in tech. And it's the same feeling I had when I said, Smart Bear is no longer the place for me. I'm going to Swiss Bakers. And dropping my ego and saying, I'm going to my family business to work because I think it's the place I can learn the most. But I enjoy, I don't know. I think more people need to really take that dive because it's so scary. Brandon, Brandon, he just he moved back home after college and was a paramedic. And he thought that would be something he'd enjoy. And then he realized it wasn't what he wanted all that much. And then he moved back to the city and got a job that he thought was his dream job, and now he's realizing it's phenomenal, but it's a building block, and now PA school is the next step. And it's that constant hunger that sometimes it doesn't even feel like hunger. It just feels like you're never complacent, you're never satisfied, and for some reason I feel like it's always talked down about. It's like, oh, the millennials don't know what they want. And yeah, we don't, but there's nothing bad in that, It's not like we live in the times where our last names coincided with what our professions were.
Right.
We don't need that anymore, and it's crazy to block yourself into this career path just because it's what people 50 years ago did.
Right. And we live in a time where it's the easiest to go from job to job than it ever has been. You can do a job for a year or two and then up and leave and go start something on your own and then join another team. It's totally different than 40, 50 years ago where you got a job in the workforce and stayed there for 50 years. That just doesn't happen.
Right.
It's hard to say because we're still so young, but it's like we have so much potential that why would you ever stay in one place too long? It would be foolish to do so.
It's weird.
It's fun though, it's cool not knowing what's around the corner. And
so let's talk more about you though. What happened? So you went to work at Massimo's in Portsmouth, which is phenomenal. Shout out to Massimo's.
Thank you. Shout out.
So what did you do there? What was the main thing? If you had to take one thing that you'd say you took out of that entire experience, what was?
Well, when I worked there, I started as I made salads. I was garde manger cook, and then over a few years, I worked my way up to being the sous chef there. And aside from learning how to cook good Italian food, I think what I learned the most about was being a good employee and being a good leader, because I had the privilege of having two great bosses, the executive chef and the owner, and they were just such good role models. It was a small place, but there was no sense of like, I'm the owner, I'm the boss, you have to do this. Like, they would never ask me to do something that they wouldn't do themselves, and that was apparent. Like, we had the joke, like, everybody was the janitor, everyone was the dishwasher, everybody would get on their hands and knees and scrub, like, no problem too big, no problem too small. Like, that type of mentality was just so awesome to be around, which is why I stayed there for so long. Because it really did feel like a family. Like, you never felt like there was any egos, and you could always ask somebody for help, and people would ask you for help, and it wasn't like this. Kitchens get the bad rap of being like Gordon Ramsay, like some dickhead.
Slightly intense.
And it happens, but the kitchen I worked in wasn't like that at all. Like, nobody had that type of attitude, and it was just like a good place to be every day. Everyone respected each other. And moving forward, even being in a different field now, like, when I look back at that, I see the type of worker, no matter where I'm working, like the type of person I want to be and the type of people I want to be around. It's like humble, hardworking people that are all there for the same reason and want to get the job done and have a good time while doing it. I mean, that's what I got out of there.
Why? But why leave? There must have been. Was there a turning point where you said,
"Yeah,
this is it. I'm out of here"? Was there a bad day? Was there what happened?
It was that getting comfortable and not waking up in the morning and feeling that hunger. When I first started there, I was so excited to go to work every day, and not that I ever dreaded it. It was a great place to work, but eventually you need to go do something new and go explore and face your own new frontier. And that's really what I was craving. And above all, that's what I have now, like something new. So it was really like after the 3-year mark, I was starting to say, like, I'm young. If I'm ever going to make a career change, like it should be sooner rather than later. And I the kitchen's a tough life, as you guys, and it's not for everyone. And I realized that it's not for me. So, I love what I learned, and I'll always have those skills. I can always whip up a quick meal, but
oh yeah,
but
those Cubanos.
Yeah, but you gotta love the Cubanos. But after a while, you just need something new and new faces and new places, and change is good.
Did you, when you first realized it, how much time between when you first realized you needed to get out and when you started thinking about what was next?
It was,
or was it I need to get out and then, well, what am I going to find next? Or was it, I'd love doing that, I need to get out? What was kind of the...
It was kind of the I need to get out, what should I do? It wasn't like a light bulb went off, like I need to pursue this, I should leave. It was like, I need to find something new. And, I kind of went back and thought about like my day-to-day life, like what interests me, because I didn't want to just go get a job that had quote unquote normal hours and a 9-to-5 thing just for the sake of it. I wanted to actually like learn something and have an impact on people's lives, corny as it sounds. But I wanted, if I was going to make the change, I wanted it to be meaningful and be a good building block, for later on in life. And I started to think like what's exciting, what's new, what's going to be here forever, what's in demand, what all those things like any job seeker would think about. And it boiled down to like I want to get involved in tech, so that was probably like a 2 or 3 month internal realization, like, am I gonna do this, am I not gonna do it, should I do it, it's so stupid, I'll give it another week, what I mean? And then finally I had to like say it out loud and be like, all right, like there's no, the seed was planted,
That's awesome.
It was like inception. Like it was just this little thing inside me, and then it came into this huge thing, and then I couldn't stop thinking about making a change. So
did you talk about it with anyone at this point, or was it still kind of like, I can't make it a reality just yet? I have to figure out how to make it a reality before I talk to anyone?
I had support, obviously, from my family. They were all aware, and my girlfriend, and she obviously knew. But and then like talking to them more and more, I started to realize it could become a reality. And then at that point, I started to talk to the chef, and him and I are friends, so he got it. He was supportive. Everyone was very supportive throughout the whole thing, and I was transparent with everyone the whole time. So
you hold on, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
You talked to your boss like what, at what point was this?
It was it took about a year from the first time I talked to him to when I actually left.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like he knew the whole time. And I was like,
what a guy.
Yeah, and he, I gave him like a year's notice. I was like, just so you know, like I am
compared to everyone else in that kitchen.
I like feel almost bad. I'm like kept like I'm leaving soon, kind of jabbing at him a little bit. But no, they were great about it. It wasn't like a transition I could make right away. You know, I
Right.
had to like learn stuff and, you know, kind of hit the books again. So, but, you know, I wear my heart on my sleeve. I think that's the right,
Yeah,
like,
you do.
I can't
Yeah,
hide.
he does.
I can't hide anything like that. So I had to be open about it right away.
Such a
Be
little
like,
sweetheart.
look, here's the deal. Like, I'm out of here.
Oh my! So when you said you had to hit the books again, explain a little bit about. Did you go back to school? Did you literally hit the books? Did you look up YouTube videos? Because Nick, for example, taught himself Photoshop and all that completely through YouTube and through articles and things like that.
Yeah, I wanted to learn how to code. So I hit the books literally. I bought a bunch of books. I did the YouTube tutorials. I read like every morning and every night in my free time, like blogs, and you know, I even had some nice discussions with Nick about this. And I took
Nick, why don't you sit on the couch with us?
come here. I took a online course, like the introductory levels of programming on the web, and you know, it was
What was that through? Like how do you what do you mean a course? Was it through UNH or
no, it was it's coding has these things called boot camps.
Okay.
And Nick doesn't like those. It was a way to get, it was all online, and you met with people like via video, like people that were in the industry, and you had a formal structured introductory to programming, you know?
Okay. Through video, or are you saying you had that like as a conversation?
They had, well, with the people, we did video and
like Skyping?
yeah, and like we could share our screens and stuff. But I need some type of structure. So like I started doing some self-study, but I mean, for anyone that's ever looked into tech, it's a big world, and knowing where to start, it's tough because you know,
especially if you're not from
no
it.
idea, and especially me, like I'm like flavor of the week. Like I want to learn this, and the next day I'm like I want to learn this, and the next day I want to learn this.
Yeah.
So after that, for like a month, I was like, all right, if I actually want to make a change and have something to put on my resume, I gotta like buckle down a little bit, do something a little formal. So yeah, I did that for like 5-6 months, and while I was working, and that like kind of opened the door to have some like base level. You know, these boot camps say like be a web developer in
2 days.
It doesn't happen like that. You know, what they do is like they'll give you the key and they'll put it in the door, and they'll like kind of open the door, but you got to open the door and walk through. You know, like it's you have to put so much into it, and like the level of competition and demand in that field is ridiculous.
No, absolutely.
So, and the companies can be picky because like they're building bigger and bigger things, you know, with software, and it, you know, is everywhere. So it's a tough field to get into for sure.
It's a bold move, but you did it.
I did. Yeah. It's cool,
And
man.
so that was school. And then when it came to finding where you want to go, what happened? Google first.
Yeah.
Gotta go to Google.
Right, definitely. I applied to probably between March and July, probably like 60 jobs, maybe. Yeah, probably more.
Pull this up. You want to speak into where this lamp was, so right there. Pull it up. There you go.
How's that?
Yeah, I just want to hear your voice a little
Okay,
bit
is that
closer.
better? Okay.
All right. Sorry.
Good. It's okay.
You can pull it closer to you. Like, pull it down.
You don't have to be all stiff. You can like.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah. That's
Do I look
beautiful.
stiff, Nick?
You look just like Nick is stiff.
Yeah. Just trying to be like him.
So you were talking about getting into places.
Yeah, I was on the job hunt for about four months, which was tough for anybody that's tried to get a job online recently. It's tough because there's so many job sites and repeat posts and posts that have just been up there getting updated every 2 weeks. You don't know what's real. You never hear back. You know, it's frustrating. So that was tough, especially ending, like coming on to a year of being like ready to do something else. that was frustrating. I had a couple interviews, and most people I just didn't hear back from, which was pretty tough, and demoralizing, if you will. But eventually I started to narrow my search a little bit, because it's easy to get overwhelmed, and then you just start applying to, like, well, I can apply to 10 jobs today because all I have to do is click four times and I've sent in the application. So I started to say, like, all right, let me just bring it back a little bit. Let me refocus on, like, what I know and how can I use what I've done in the past and what I've learned so far with tech, and, like, bring that all together,
Absolutely. And then, so you reestablished your focus, and then you ended up looking into places that had relations with the food industry.
Mm-hmm.
So was that based on your passion still being with food? Was that kind of a strategy to say, well, that I have a competitive edge in that because I've been in it? Or was someone like, hey, why don't you go into...
Well, it was actually a little bit of all three. Because, like, my family and, like, people I had been talking to along the way were like, you need to find an industry where you can make an actual contribution to with what you've learned. And it's kind of it's like a small sector of tech. I mean, granted, it's pretty big, but, like, food related tech companies are like a small percentage of the tech companies that there are, So number one was, like, finding that. And yeah, my experience and, like, my passion for the industry, hospitality, like, wasn't completely gone, like, that's still what I've done my whole working life and what I studied in school. And, nothing, in my opinion, is, like, as lasting of a memory than, like, a great dinner or a great experience at, like, a hotel, like, that's where memories are made, in my opinion. Or even just, like, memories surrounding food, like a good dinner, like breaking bread. That's, like, as good as it gets, right?
Well, it's also the way you grew up, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like, that was a big part of growing up. So I wanted to... Keeping that in my passion for that and combining it with what I wanted to do sounded like a good place to start, a good next step. So yeah, I found a company a point of sale company, that restaurants use, and they needed somebody on there to help support their software and support their users and be the connection with their users, the restaurant owners, and help customize that software to best suit the restaurant owners. And, to me, that was like, that's perfect. I can go and work with the cool software and, talk to restaurant owners all day and help them achieve their goals while I achieve my goals. I mean, for me, that was like instant, like, I think this is right. And it ended up working out pretty well. Excited.
Because I don't think you touched on it too much, but one of the responsibilities you had at Massimo's was that you did inventory management and inventory control in general. And that's a huge part of modern day POS.
Right.
Is the connection of the front end with the back end. So when it comes to that, how much of all that does the company handle? Does it do everything across the board, from being able to take an order to being able to show the back end inventory and all of that, or it literally does everything?
Yeah, it does top to bottom. They can place orders through the POS. When they sell an item, if it's linked up with their inventory, it'll automatically deplete their inventory, what they've sold. So if they sell a pizza, like, one pizza dough down on the inventory, then they set par levels and that. So then when they go to place the order, which is integrated with their vendors on the POS, it's going to say, hey, you sold X amount of pizzas. You're supposed to have X amount of this ingredient, so you should order this. And then they have to click a button and it sends it to the purveyor. The vendor then receives their purchase order. They receive it the next day. They can check it all in through the POS, and, like, it's all one continuous, fully integrated cycle. It's really awesome. If we had that where I worked at Massimo's, it would be pretty nice.
Why aren't they getting on the customer list? Come on.
I know. It's most of the people that use that are like the big franchisee type places that have like very strict recipes, and like everything's kind of weighed down to the T, which a lot of mom and pops places, it's like, they have the same person working there every day. Like it's a handful of this, a handful, a scoop of this.
Right.
But it really comes in handy for like those big chains where they have to keep track of every single slice of pepperoni, every bit of this. So yeah, it's exciting seeing all that in motion,
It's a dream come true.
Yeah, it's cool.
It happened.
It's cool. Very exciting.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So this is so weird. I can't believe this is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know. See, I was talking. Nick came. I picked Nick up. I picked Nick up at work, and because we needed to go pick up those cables and everything, and I figured I'd just pick him up, bring him here so he could run the back end here. He so nicely agreed to do this. And one of the first things he said was, "So what's the deal? What are you going to talk to Anthony about?" And I was like,
that's what everyone kept asking me too.
Right.
Like,
no. And I was like, well, first of all, stop insulting Anthony. He's somewhat interesting. No, but the main thing for me was, I don't care. Like, it should literally be the most organic, normal conversation with an interesting person. Yeah. I want it to be. And obviously you and I, especially now that you live in town, we see each other way more than we did before. So it's definitely more difficult to have an incredibly lengthy conversation just because we talk all the time. All the time. But I was saying that with everyone else, I don't want to really talk to them for a month leading up to it. Right. Because I mean, it's cool. Next week's guest is Davey Bryan.
That'll be an interesting one.
We went to high school with.
Yeah.
But I haven't talked to him, I don't know, since probably high school.
Yeah, I haven't either.
I mean, I've had like a brief conversation with him at Chili's.
Right.
And such. But, and that's the concept of it, is let's sit down. Yes, he has a ton of interesting things that happen in his life, but it shouldn't just revolve around that. And that's what I wanted to make the main point of this conversation, because many people that ask me, oh, well, what are you going to talk to Anthony about? And I said, well, part of it will definitely be about the mid-20s career change that everyone is scared of, because I think people need to hear about that. I think that's way more incredible than most people would ever give it credit for, because it takes balls that most people won't have. But the second thing for me is, if someone's interesting, if someone has bold things in their lives, whether it be you doing a career change or Davey, which again will be here next week, biking across the country, either way, it means that they themselves have a different perception of the world than other people do. Right. So whether we talk about excuse me, a movie that we saw, I don't know, religion, whatever it may be. And that's why I texted you beforehand and I said, is there anything that's completely off limits? Because if it does come up, I don't want to be like, well, we can't talk about that. Right. You know, it should be able to be able to talk about whatever we want. It's it's completely our opinion. Yeah. But the main thing that I based all of this off of was interesting people know interesting people. And there's nothing more empowering than knowledge of other people's success and other people's lives, because I think it empowers you to be able to live a life like that, you know? And that's why I think podcasting is something that I said I want to take on, is because I got so into it. I mean, you and I were both so into music, and I barely listen to music anymore, because all I listen to is podcasts, whether I'm running, whether I'm working, whatever I'm doing, I'm always listening to something. And it made me feel so much smarter instantly. I felt like, well, wow, I can bring this up in conversation. And I feel like if more people do that and more conversations are had like that, we're all going to be better off. There's nothing, I'm not saying this podcast specifically, but when you listen to a lot of these podcasts, and I think what's important is to listen to as many a variety as you can, not just listening to the same one every day. There's way more education in that than listening to CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, all those. Just listening to one of those is mind-numbing. The other day I came home and there was CNN on, and then someone came home and they put on Fox News. And I was just listening to it in the background while I was cooking. I was like, this is crazy talk. This literally sounds like the most ridiculous. You might as well be watching Cartoon Network.
Right. Well, I've never been a news watcher. It's like they try to make stories out of nothing to fill an entire day's worth of news, and I can watch it for 15 minutes and be so bored. And depending on what channel you watch, it's like incredibly biased, which is why, like you, I like to listen to podcasts and hear different people talk and see what they think about this, and listen to different stories and different viewpoints and
stories.
Oh wow, look at that, stories. But no, I love learning new things, and just getting different perspectives is so important, because it's so easy to get in your own little bubble and think you know everything, and you really don't know anything. It's good to keep learning, and I think that you're gonna have a lot of interesting people on here, and
I hope so.
It'll open up, like, people will open up to you, and you'll see a whole new side of people, especially people that you haven't talked to in a while.
Right.
Which would be really cool,
Well, it's also, I was talking to one of the people that's going to be on here, and he owns a company, and he was it's a family business too. and he was like, this is so cool. It's such a good idea. He's like, what got you to do it? And I was like, to have a conversation for the sake of having a conversation. It's not for the sake of me being like, yo, tech is really actually not where it's at.
Right.
Swiss Bakers is where it's at. It's not, the conversation should just be had just to have it. It's not, I feel like so many conversations are just always about one party trying to convince the other party of a certain point or a specific fact, whatever it may be. It's rarely about, hey, let's talk because I'm interested in what the other side or what someone else believes that grew up completely differently. One of the main things that I love about where I moved is my two roommates. One of them's Polish and one of them's Brazilian, and I'm Swiss. So it's like three completely different ideologies, and our conversations are unbelievable. They're just so they're unlike any conversations. It's just like when we're sitting down now. It's like you and I grew up you grew up in Reading for the majority of your life, and when it comes to political views, you came from completely different political views than that, but we still ended up being really, really good friends. And over the past few years, I think even more so, have grown way, way more similar when it comes to being that open, especially on my side. And I think that's another reason that this is happening when it's happening, because if you, I tried doing this 2 years ago, just 2 years ago. I was like, no, trust me. I got this. Anthony, you sit there and you listen. And you're going to have a mic in front of you just to have a mic in front of you, but you're going to listen. And I'm so glad that this is finally coming to fruition, because I think it's huge. I think it has the potential of having, again, even if it's just a conversation. My mom was like, so you nervous? And I was like, well, kind of. I haven't been this nervous in a while. But she was like, so what's the end goal? I was like, the end goal? There is no end goal. Like, the goal is, first of all, it's like a real life version of social media, right? Like, this is seriously like a big network. It's like LinkedIn, but in real life. Because at the least, I'll meet and speak with people that I normally would have never spoken to. You know, I have guests booked bi-weekly until mid-January, and I'd say that 80% of them I wouldn't have talked to, or wouldn't have talked to on a personal level like this. And that's why eventually, as we move on, what I want to do is I want to make the camera more hidden. I want to do everything possible to make this feel like we're just having a conversation. It's not, hey, are you ready? Camera's about to be on.
Right.
Because then people turn off. You know, people all of a sudden build up this wall. And
it gets a little, you can get a little camera shy. But I think that above all, it's like, how many times during the day do you have, or how many people in your life do you have like true, meaningful, deep conversations with? Like, could you count them on one hand, two hand, maybe?
One hand.
Yeah. So it is really awesome to sit down and like just talk, you know? Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I love like sitting down at a dinner table, or sometimes more than going out to eat, because it's like no distractions. Just sit down and eat. Like, you have to talk. It's like going for a walk. You know what I mean? Like, the only thing there is to do on a walk is talk. That's it. Yeah. Which is like, and like, that's the best way to get to know somebody and open up with them, is to like go for a walk, eat dinner, talk. And like, this is kind of the same thing. Like, we're just here to talk, you know, open up to each other. Like, whatever comes up. That'll be cool. You have a lot of guests coming up? You're fully booked?
So, I mean, next, it's going to be bi-weekly. But since I screwed up, it's all my fault. This was supposed to be on the 20th. I screwed up with the ordering of items to make this whole thing happen. But so instead of pushing all of them back by week, I said what I'm going to do is do this one this week. We're going to do Davey next week. And then go bi-weekly from there. But yeah, I think I counted, I think it's 12 or 13 guest
awesome.
book. No, I'm super excited. I hope that they follow through.
Yeah.
I said the way it's going to work is I'm going to email them a week before, or text them a week before to confirm it. Recording is always going to take place at 8 p.m. on Wednesday, bi-weekly, obviously, unless it doesn't work for whatever reason. And then uploading will go up as soon as Nick edits it all together. So I don't know. I don't know if at one point we'll shift, because the ultimate goal is for all this to be live.
Yeah.
Like, I want it to be, because whenever you start to edit things, people start to question how edited it is, how raw it really is. And the main concept is that it is as raw as it can possibly be. I want it to be completely open. I don't want people to question, oh, did they cut things out that they shouldn't have said, and all that, because that kind of stuff is what shows who a real person really is. And I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. I'm not trying to do any of that. But I think we live in a world where everyone's scared of what they're saying and who they're saying it to. And I hate that. I hate that more than anything. I think that is the most dangerous thing that can possibly happen, is when people start to fear being themselves. I'm not saying go join a hate group or anything like that, because that's definitely not smart. But definitely, I feel like you should be you. Be who you are. Everyone grew up saying, oh, everyone's special in their own way. For whatever reason, we've completely abandoned that. It's like, no, if you're special in a certain way, become more like the guy next to you and be normal. And I don't like that. So, I mean, you know me. You grew up with me, and I'm outspoken to a degree that sometimes gets me in trouble. But I want the whole conversation to be more organic like that.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I feel comfortable. I don't see why.
Comfortable?
I feel pretty good.
You feel comfortable?
Yeah, I like it. I like talking into this mic.
I said that the setup's probably going to change a bit. I want to kind of get this couch to be 2 seats that are like facing each other a little bit, because I feel like my head tomorrow morning is going to be
a little crooked.
But for now it works. I also at one point want 2 cameras so that it switches on whoever's talking. And that's basically it.
It's exciting.
Yeah?
Very exciting.
Let's wrap this shindig up.
Yeah.
Yeah? Chapter 1's a wrap.
It's over. Any final words?
You're the guest.
Thanks for having me. This was fun. You'll have to make me a second time guest, hopefully, in the future.
Maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah.
At some point we might do like a group one. We'll do one with like all our friends.
Yeah.
Watch
That'd be good.
watch a scary movie since we know you love scary movies.
Yeah, we can go on somewhere high too, like on top of a building or
Let's
something.
do it.
Yeah.
All right, so everyone, thanks for tuning in. Chapter 1's done. If you want, we don't have a Twitter set up yet or an Instagram. I'm not quite sure if we're going to do that, but we're definitely going to do, we have a Gmail set up. It's storiespodcast@gmail.com. That's STOHRIES podcast@gmail.com. If you have any guests you'd like us to have on, if you have any feedback, any hate, anything you want to throw at us, throw it at us. And thanks so much for tuning in, making us a part of your Wednesday or whatever day of the week this goes up. Thanks so much. Peace.